and gentlemen, Joe Biden, it's not looking good for him again, because now the state of Wisconsin is actually pushing forth a protest vote against Joe Biden. I warned you, the uncommitted votes in Michigan was just the beginning, that other states would also join along in the protest vote against Joe Biden in the primary, and Wisconsin is no different. Let's go ahead and get into that behind the scenes of the Biden protest vote in Wisconsin, which is also going to be one of those key states. Let's dive in.
Before I begin, I want to say thank you. Wait.
I think the Democratic Party has lost all legitimacy in our communities. I have felt deeply betrayed.
I think that this is a really serious electoral issue for him, and it is solely based on his policies that he has gotten to this point.
The country watched as Michigan's uncommitted movement gained over 100,000 votes in its Democratic primary to protest how President Biden has handled the war in Gaza, now approaching its 6th month. Since then, other states have seen a rise in uncommitted votes at their respective Democratic primaries.
Okay, let's look at the numbers. Michigan, okay, we're looking at the protest votes, uncommitted votes. In 2012, 10.7%. Now 13.2%. Hawaii, 3.1% in 2012. Now 29.1%. That's a freaking lot. 29.1% there. In Minnesota, 3.7% in 2012, 18.8% in 2024.
Highlighting a potential re-election threat for Biden. In Wisconsin, the uncommitted option on the ballot is called Uninstructed.
How will you be voting on April 2nd?
I'll be voting uninstructed.
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 I plan on voting uninstructed. You can put your hazards on and then we'll just unload the chairs. So we're gonna just kind of lay them out, and then the podium here.
Hala Ahmed is a spokesperson for the Listen to Wisconsin campaign. She's getting ready for the campaign's official launch 2 weeks before the state's April 2nd primary.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
A lot of critics have been saying a vote for uncommitted would be effectively a vote for Trump. Do you agree with that?
No, I definitely don't agree with that premise, but I think it's, again, centering November rather than centering right now. If in November we still don't have a ceasefire, I don't know what will be left in Gaza, and that's our focus in this campaign.
So far, the uncommitted movement's won over 20 delegates to send to the Democratic National Convention in August, giving the movement an opportunity to keep the ceasefire message going beyond the primaries.
So you guys hear that? Over 20 delegates. So listen to this. The Wisconsin primary is April 7th. That's just around, it's coming up very quickly, just around the corner. So I'll be sure to check those numbers of the uninstructed turnout there. I don't know why they called it uninstructed instead of uncommitted, or I don't know, something like that. Uninstructed sounds a little, I don't know why they chose that term, but I told you that this would spread.
And in the Wisconsin primary, they're pushing to get at least 20,000 votes, the same number that won Biden the state back in 2020.
Wisconsinites have had enough. Democracy looks like listening to a majority of Americans who support a ceasefire.
A March Gallup poll found that 55% of Americans disapprove of Israel's military actions in Gaza. But that number is even higher at 63% when just looking at voters between the ages of 18 and 34.
Hey, have you heard of the Vote Uninstructed campaign? Have you guys heard about the Uninstructed campaign?
About an hour and a half away, 22-year-old graduate student Dalia Saba is at the University of Wisconsin in Madison, also working to get the word out about the uninstructed movement.
And so, would you be down to vote uninstructed? Cool.
Why flyering? Do you think that's the best way to get out to students?
I think it's important for students to see that, this is a campaign that's being run by students and by young people. The Uninstructed campaign is really a way of sending a message. It is a way for us to quantify, this is how many people care about this issue. We are Democrats. We are voting in the Democratic primary. These are your constituents, and your policy is alienating them. So would you be willing to vote uninstructed?
Yeah, I would definitely be interested.
Okay.
As a Palestinian American with family currently in Gaza, Dalia says this movement is personal for her.
For me, at least, I felt a lot of cognitive dissonance of going to school, going to class, and acting like everything is normal when every day I see videos of the most horrific thing I've ever seen in my life.
Think about how Palestinian Americans must feel, even though what's happening is so far away, is so close to their heart, right? Because it's their people, right? They are Palestinian. Think about how they must feel right now. They probably can't go one day without seeing the images that are happening in Gaza. And my whole thing is, regardless if the ceasefire happens before November, at this point in time, I got to tell you, if I was still a part of the Democratic Party, I still wouldn't support Joe Biden. All these people that have been killed, and the way that he could have prevent more death in Gaza, but he chose not to because he continued to give BB weapons. I got to tell you, like, at this point, it's not just uncommitted or uninstructed in the primary. It should be that way in November as well. Don't support this dude. Like, just don't. Votes have to be earned. And the whole Trump bad, oh my God, both Biden and Trump support the state of Israel. So there are other options out there that are running that do not. You can always vote for them. But at this point, if you voted uncommitted or uninstructed in the primary and then November you turn around and support Joe Biden, I don't know what else to tell you. I really don't. But you should continue to leverage that power.
And that made me feel very powerless. Who here has phone banked with Uninstructed before? Nobody. Cool, that's exciting. But organizing around this, trying to fight for justice, and especially through this Uninstructed campaign, has allowed me to feel some more power and feel like I am actually working towards something. I feel like it can sometimes be more scary to talk to people you know than strangers.
Several students and community members on Madison's campus have endorsed the Uninstructed movement. Tonight, some have gathered to phone bank and pitch to Wisconsin voters.
This is a part of the effort to keep Trump out. We're letting Biden know what he needs to do to get votes in November.
I think Wisconsin also gives the opportunity to show that this is not an identity-based issue.
You would? Awesome. I'm really glad to hear that.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I think there was a tendency to paint this as something that primarily came only from Arab Americans and Muslim Americans. Oh my God, this is so cute. But I mean, if we look at the percentage of people in Ann Arbor, for example, who voted uncommitted in Michigan, this shows that this is also something that's very important to young voters, which of course comprise such an important part of the Democratic Party's coalition.
These are also college towns, too, for those who are not aware. Madison, Wisconsin is home of the University of Wisconsin. Ann Arbor, Michigan is home of the University of Michigan. So, and these are pretty large schools, if I remember correctly, especially Michigan. So it goes to show you again, look at what the young people are doing. Look at what they're doing, right? I told you, I got a lot of hope. I got a lot of hope with the youth. They are really... I look at Gen Z and I honestly think to myself, like, as someone who's a millennial, I think about some of the things that I feel like we could have done. But I also am well aware that social media wasn't around the entire time that I was alive either. So there was a lot of things that I didn't find out about until later on, to be honest with you. But I look at them and I think about the things that those of us, the millennials, could have done. Although we did, like, Occupy Wall Street, there's Occupy. But I just think, yeah, they are my hope here. And it's interesting because you'll look at this comment here from John Kirby, who is a certified professional lawyer for the State Department. Here he is trying to both sides this issue. And you cannot continue to both sides this issue. That can cause, obviously, devastation for the Palestinian people in Gaza. But that is not, you are not going to win people over for Joe Biden trying to both sides this issue in Gaza. Israel has lost a tremendous amount of support. Listen to this.
On October 7th, President Biden said, "My administration's support for Israel's security is rock solid and unwavering." That is not true anymore, correct?
No, it is true. Still true today.
How is his support unwavering, but you're also reconsidering policy choices?
Let's pause here. So if you don't know this, now Joe Biden has said, I guess behind the scenes, he's reconsidering some of the policy choices and decisions when it comes to Israel. So that reporter is asking John Kirby, how is your support for Israel unwavering if the president is considering some of the policy decisions in reference to Israel, like giving them arms, right? Watch him try to both sides this.
Both can be true.
They cannot be true. They're completely different things.
No. I'm sorry.
He is wavering.
No, come on.
How is he not wavering?
Come on now. As I said, and as it says in that readout, we made clear, and he made it clear to the Prime Minister in his call, that our support for Israel's self-defense remains ironclad. They face a range of threats, and the United States isn't going to walk away from helping Israel defend itself. That said, you can say all that, and you can act on that, and you can believe that, and the president does, and still believe that the manner in which they're defending themselves against the Hamas threat needs to change. And that is the conversation that we had today. But both things are true. Our support is ironclad and consistent. It's not going to stop. It's not going to waver. But will there perhaps be some policy changes we might have to make if we don't see policy changes out of Israel? Yes.
So let me tell you how this guy is just a tool of the establishment and a mouthpiece. Okay. This guy is, again, certified liar. So first of all, if you have a disagreement with the manner in which Israel is choosing to fight against Hamas, but you are still giving them weapons, you're trying to both sides the issue, which you cannot do. You're still giving them the ammo, right? So the Biden administration has to deal with that, trying to both sides this issue. They also have to deal with this. Now, this is Jill Stein. She also spoke recently to an uncommitted voter in Michigan. She was on C-SPAN. You guys need to hear this. Notice there has been some type of blackout of Jill Stein's campaign. They haven't invited her onto Democracy Now! Jill has always spoke about this. She's been on Democracy Now! Before in the past, but they haven't invited her on. Chris Cuomo, by the way, who said that he invited on Joe Biden and Donald Trump. He also brought on RFK Jr. He's brought on Cornel West. I noticed I haven't seen Jill Stein on Chris Cuomo's show on News Nation. So they're trying to black her out because they know she is the third party candidate right now with the most ballot access, and she will continue to gain access. She has experience doing this. She's probably going to be in the ballot in over 40 states, just like last time. So they're trying to not talk about her as much as possible, but they're bringing on the people that don't have much ballot access. Listen to this. Biden campaign needs to hear this as well.
Committed Michigan primary voters. I was thinking about staying home, but when I heard uncommitted, I was like, yes, I want at least my voice registered, my one little vote, saying that I'm done voting for the lesser of two evils, so to speak. And I agree with everything that you say, Dr. Stein, and I just keep doing what you're doing. And, you know, one of my Medicare for All is just so important for everybody. And
so, Laura,
you know,
do you plan on voting for Jill Stein there in Michigan?
Yes, if she's the Green Party nominee and she's on the ballot, yes, I will vote for her.
You guys hear that? So this is a uncommitted voter in Michigan who said that they will vote for Jill Stein in November. And honestly, if you vote, that's why I said, if you voted uncommitted in the primary, you need to take this all the way going into November and vote uncommitted, or however you want to vote in November. Not for Biden, not for Donald Trump, not for anybody who supports the state of Israel. I'm keeping it real. You need to carry that all the way. Otherwise, you are losing your leverage. You are throwing it away. And I've said this before. If the Democratic Party needs to lose, then they need to freaking lose. The Democratic Party needs a wake-up call, and they need to know that they can't just basically use people for when they need them for votes, particularly those from the Black community, because they can't win without our vote, and then just toss us aside and give support for people in Israel, but not give support for people in this country. This needs to be a big wake up call. So listen to what Jill says
And
here.
I just want to say one other thing quick that maybe she can speak to. Money in politics, when the Supreme Court said that money is speech, I feel like that was the beginning of the end for any kind of true representation of the working class in this country. And maybe you want to say something about that. Thank you.
Thank you so much for everything you've said there. I really appreciate where you're coming from. And this is what we are hearing out on the campaign trail. So many people who used to be Democrats and people actually who used to be Republicans as well, and who feel like these big parties that are swimming in corporate money have really abandoned working Americans. They've abandoned young people. They've abandoned students. They've abandoned seniors, whose Medicare is being privatized right out from under them, and people aren't even aware. And it's being done without their knowledge. People are really being hurt by the system. They are standing up and rejecting it. And what the previous caller had to say is, what I'm hearing and seeing all.
Yeah, so that clip there, so she was on C-SPAN. They do know that she's a threat because of the ballot access. And then there's this issue. Trump now leads Biden in polling in 6 swing states. Let's dive into this a little bit, and then we're going to play. We're going to have some fun.
Former President Donald Trump is leading President Joe Biden in 6 of the 7 most competitive states in the 2024 election.
These are the states that are going to be the most competitive and most likely to determine the outcome.
Here are 5 takeaways from the Wall Street Journal's new poll. The poll found that in a head-to-head matchup, Trump leads between 1 and 6 percentage points in 6 states. The one outlier was Wisconsin, where the 2 candidates are tied.
But remember what I just showed you about Wisconsin. They're tied in Wisconsin, but they have that Uninstructed campaign that's starting, and their primary is April 7th. So we'll come back and revisit those numbers.
One thing we're seeing in this poll is that President Biden has a significant challenge in holding together the coalition that elected him in 2020.
In that same survey, voters were quizzed on which of the 2 candidates they'd prefer when it came to the economy, immigration, abortion, and mental and physical fitness needed to be president. On these 3, voters preferred Trump over Biden by 20 percentage points.
Pause. The economy, immigration, and mental physical fitness need to be president. Voters actually prefer, in those swing states, they prefer Donald Trump. I've been trying to warn people about this for the longest time. Biden only leads on the abortion issue in those swing states. So I talked about this before on Rising a couple of times. When I'm talking to voters on the street, the people have told me their number one concern is the economy, not abortion. People need to understand this and really get this through their head. Next is immigration. This is also in the Black community. This is the first time in my adult life where a top 3 concern among Black Americans has been immigration. This is the first time I've heard that. First time. And third is the mental and physical fitness to be president. Biden only leads on the abortion issue.
The only issue Biden polled higher on was abortion, where he led Trump by 12 percentage points.
People have a lot of things in their minds, and it's the job of the campaign to make the issue that's most favorable to them top of mind in voters. For Biden, that's going to be abortion. You'll see them out there talking quite often about Donald Trump's role in nominating Supreme Court justices who overturned Roe v. Wade.
Trump proudly says, quote, "After 50 years, with no one coming close, I was able to kill Roe v. Wade."
At the same time, you see Donald Trump out there trying to make immigration the most salient issue, at least right now, in voters' minds.
It's a border bloodbath, and it's destroying our country.
And which issue is dominant as voters go to vote could determine, for undecided voters, which lever they pull. One thing that screams out from this poll is the broad dissatisfaction that voters have with the economy. And in fact, in these 7 swing states, voters are more focused on the economy and more sour over the economy than are voters nationwide. And that's a problem for Joe Biden. The economy is strong by traditional measures, but people aren't giving the president credit for it. And that's something he's going to need to address.
The survey also found an unusual dynamic. Voters in these battleground states say the national economy is in bad shape, but conditions in their home states are generally good.
This is one of the puzzles that we see in polling, not just in this poll, but in many polls. People say that the economy is doing poorly, but they quite often say that their own finances and their own part of the economy is doing fine.
Third party.
Actually, it's not a puzzle, okay? Because the economy in their state could be doing fine, but that still doesn't mean that they're not having to pay high prices. See, that's the thing. If you're looking at GDP and all that kind of stuff, that doesn't actually calculate for the cost of groceries. This is the biggest complaint I'm hearing from people about the economy is the grocery prices. People are telling me they went from paying like $100 to $150 to like $350. I see it myself. I cook, so I see it as well. So the thing is like, people are talking about their pocket. They're talking about what's in their bank account, how much these bills are going to cost. Even the energy prices increase. People got higher heating bills, and you think about some of those states where it snows, a Michigan, a Wisconsin, a Pennsylvania, right? They are going to get snow. So think about that. Now they bring in the third party effect.
And independent candidates represent an unpredictable element in the election.
15% as of now say that they would vote for a third-party candidate or an independent candidate like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. or Cornel West. And when you add in that some people who right now say they're going to support Trump or Biden say that it's possible they'll vote for them, but not definite, you get as much as a third of the electorate that's still up for grabs.
When asked who they would vote.
Okay, so I don't want to look at this, because I want to play. So I didn't want to look at that just yet because we're going to play around. And then this commentary here from NBC News, this actually was released yesterday. They're getting really scared. Listen to this again. Trump leading Biden in 6 the swing states.
Wow, what a nice crowd this is. Former President Trump barnstorming the Midwest this week, hoping to flip a critical region for his campaign. November 5th, we are going to win this state. We're going to win the White House, and we are going to save our country. We're going to save our country. Mr. Trump holding events Tuesday in Wisconsin and Michigan, 2 states he won in 2016, but lost to Joe Biden 4 years later. The former president now looking for cracks in Democrats' so-called blue wall ahead of their November rematch. Go out and vote. And tonight, new polling shows he may have found some. A new Wall Street Journal survey shows Mr. Trump leading in 6 battleground states, including several Midwestern prizes. Biden is still within the margin of error in all of them, but it's a major reversal from 2020 when Mr. Biden won all but one of these states. The pair in a dead heat in Wisconsin, where the presumptive GOP nominee taunted Mr. Biden from a rally stage in Green Bay. We have an empty podium right here to my right. You know what that is? That's for Joe Biden. I'm trying to get him to debate.
The easiest path to President Biden getting 270 electoral votes and winning re-election is repeating his victories in places like Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. In battleground Michigan, he has been trailing in poll after poll. And to change the trajectory of this race, he has to actually start overtaking Donald Trump.
Donald Trump doesn't trust women. I do. The Biden campaign fighting back this week, releasing a new ad hitting Trump on abortion after the Florida Supreme Court greenlit a 6-week abortion ban, spotlighting the issue. The president also highlighting his financial advantage over his challenger in the wake of his star-studded fundraiser in New York City last week, flanked by former Presidents Obama and Clinton. But questions remain about whether the Biden campaign can translate donor dollars into votes.
By being the incumbent, President Biden and his campaign have the definite money advantage, and they're going to be spending campaign ad after campaign ad. But Donald Trump ended up proving in 2016 that sometimes you don't need the money advantage to be able to win a presidential contest.
I would not be bragging about how much money you have at this point when voters' top concern is the economy. Read the room. But let's play. Let's have a little bit of interactive fun over here. We're bringing up the 2024 presidential election interactive map, and we're going to have a little bit of fun. This is 270 to win. Let's make some predictions here, folks, right? So let's just dive up a little bit closely here. Doobie-doo. Can I make it a little bit bigger? Is it going to let me? Does it make the map bigger? Oh, yeah, it does. Check that out. All right, cool. Let's play, folks. Okay, you need 270 to win. We are going to focus on these swing states, right? Because the reality is, at the end of the day, that is what's going to decide it, right? So let's have a little bit of fun. The swing states are the tan color states: Nevada, Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Georgia. I'm going to do something a little bit wild and crazy. You want to get a little wild and crazy? All right, let's do it. We click on the states and they change the color. I'm going to make a prediction. Let's start with Nevada. I think Nevada is slept on. I really do. I am going to paint Nevada a light red. Nevada is one of those states that RFK Jr. is actually performing pretty well in the polls. I looked at this the other day. Also, Nevada is in a solid dark blue, right? It is a swing state. Nevada can go either way. And I'm also making Nevada a light red state because of the immigration issue. I think without all the concerns that people have about the border that they're talking about, I think that could be a deciding factor in reference to Nevada. So I'm making that a light red to go to the Republicans, to go to Donald Trump. That's going to start with that one first. And you guys can let me know if you agree in the chat. We're going to swing over to Georgia. Realistically, I'm going to go ahead and make this a light red as well. Based on what I've seen from the polls, I think Donald Trump actually can win Georgia again. I'm not convinced that Georgia has become a blue state. I've lived there. I know people in the piece, and I think that Donald Trump is going to win Georgia again this time around. I don't think Joe Biden is going to win that. So just keeping it real. Now, we're going to go to Arizona last. I'll tell you why. Let's go up here to Wisconsin. Now, they just started the uninstructed vote. Did I make this bigger? Did that make it bigger? Okay, I did. Wisconsin, they just started the uninstructed vote. That will be April 7th, but I'm going to go ahead and make a prediction here. Donald Trump and Joe Biden are tied in Wisconsin at this point in time. I'm going to make a hint guess that Wisconsin may be a light blue. I think Joe Biden may be able to pull that one out, mainly because the uninstructed vote tally has not come in yet. I could change my mind after that, but also there's not a lot of news about that protest vote happening there in Wisconsin. So I'm going to make that a light blue. We're going to give that towards the Democrats. Right now, Democrats have 236, Republicans have 257. We're going to go to Michigan. I'm going to make Michigan a light red based on what I've seen from the uncommitted votes. And that is where that campaign actually started, was in Michigan. You also have the auto workers in Michigan as well. Remember, they endorsed Joe Biden, but the president of the UAW said most of his members are not voting for Joe Biden in November. So I wanted to keep that in my mind as well. So I'm making Michigan a light red. I'm giving that one to the Republicans, to Donald Trump. We're going to swing over to Pennsylvania, one of the other swing states here. This one's going to be tough, but I think I'm going to make this a light blue. I think Biden may perform well in places like Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. That might be enough to pull it out. They also had like uncommitted votes there, but not as strong as in some of these places like Michigan, et cetera, and Minnesota. But also, you know, I think in general, I think he's going to pull out Pennsylvania. We're just making that guess there. That goes to Biden. So we now have the Democrats at 255 and we have the Republicans at 272. Remember, you need 270 to win it. Now let's go to Arizona. I am going to make, based on the polls that I have seen, Arizona This is another state that RFK Jr. is actually polling really well. It was tied between Donald Trump and Joe Biden when you include RFK Jr. in the polling mix there. If he's on the ballot in Arizona, which last time I checked, he got the signatures to be on the ballot in Arizona, I can see Arizona going towards a light red. Now, why am I saying this? Because, again, this is a border state. I think what's going to bring people out in Arizona to support the Republican Party, it may not just be on the economy, but that second issue that was discussed in the previous video, which is immigration. So, again, pay attention to the border states, because you notice, with the exception of California, the border states, for the most part, tend to be red. And with the exception of New Mexico, Arizona has complained. People have complained a lot about the border in Arizona, also Texas, of course. So I do see that going back to Donald Trump. Now, here's the issue for the Biden administration. You have to remember that Arizona, Nevada, and Michigan, and Georgia, I just gave you 4 states that I made light red that Joe Biden won in 2020. If this holds up, that puts the Democrats at 255. It puts the Republicans at 283. This is my prediction. Let's make one change just to show you if anything else would happen. Let's say, on a whim of it, let's say that Wisconsin actually ends up being a light red, right? Let's flip-flop. I really don't think Michigan's going to be blue. But let's say he really captures the Detroit vote. Let's say African Americans heavily come out and support him and he somehow slides by. And we'll make this a light blue. I want to show you the problem that you still run into. Democrats 260, Republicans 278. So Republicans would still win it. Let's make the flip with Nevada, and let's say Nevada is going to be a light blue again. Let's say that they decide to go with Joe Biden again. Now, I just gave Joe Biden back Nevada. That's 266 and 272 for the Republicans. What I'm trying to say to you is this. What it really comes down to in 2024 is the swing states. We all know California is not going to be red. We all know Alaska is not going to be blue. There's no sense in focusing on those states. But these swing states are going to determine it. And I think we really need to not sleep on Nevada, Arizona. There's a lot of talk about Georgia and Michigan, but don't sleep on Nevada and Arizona. Either way, I think that Donald Trump is going to win based on what we see so far. I could be wrong, but I'm going off of the polls that exist right now. We can come back and do this again later on in the year, but I thought it was fun to play.